Okay, so this session was about the impact of macroeconomic and trade variables on the labor market. And this is a very welcome focus because a lot of the work on labor markets in the MENA region has been on the supply side, how people determine whether they participate or not, how people determine what their qualifications for the labor market are, etc. There's very little work from the demand side looking at what firms do in the labor market and what also trade policies and economic policies, how they affect the labor market. And so that's why it's a welcome session, and one of them used firm level data, which is also rare. We tend to use household level data for labor market analysis, and the fact that we had firm level data, I think, is an innovation that was important. Now, both authors were trying to look at important policy variables and how they affect outcomes that we care about. So one of the outcomes is the female share of employment in manufacturing, and what sort of firms tend to hire women more in manufacturing than others. And of course, since we want to increase or reduce the barriers to female participation in the labor market, understanding how to increase female employment in manufacturing is a very important part of the equation. The other paper was looking at the impact of trade reform, dramatic reductions in tariffs, and exchange rate reform, liberalizing the exchange rate and unifying the exchange rate on primarily manufacturing firms in Iran and on wages of workers in these firms. And they did a very interesting setup where they created it as a sort of an experiment in which some firms are treated and some firms are not treated by the reforms. It's actually, so the unit of analysis there was the worker in a given industry, and the industry were either treated or not treated by these reforms. And they found some expected results that trade, when an industry becomes less protected, wages go down. And that's because when an industry is protected, they can afford to pay higher wages, but when they have to compete on the world market, they have to pay lower wages. And at the same thing, industries that were tradable industries and experienced exchange rate devaluation, if they were protected, they would be hurt, but if they were not protected, they would benefit, because exchange rate means you're raising the price of tradables relative to non-tradables. So those were all expected results, and it was good to find that research does produce sometimes expected results.